Dr. Elliot Harrow leaned back in his chair at the Galactic Peace Health Center on Mars, flipping through a holographic report on a rare fungal infection found on Titan. He enjoyed these quiet moments between cases, though they were rare in a facility tasked with treating patients from dozens of species. His peace was interrupted by the sharp chime of an incoming transmission. The hologram of Director Calden, the center's administrator, appeared. His expression was grave. "Dr. Harrow, you're being summoned to the Lithian Royal Palace immediately. Their queen is critically ill, and our counterparts on Zilithian have requested your expertise." Elliot straightened, setting the report aside. "Zilithians? They're notoriously self-sufficient. For them to call for help, it must be serious." "It is," Calden replied. "The request came directly from the royal family. The queen's condition is dire, and none of their healers have found a cure." Within the hour, Elliot was aboard a high-speed shuttle, his mind racing. The Zilithians were one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, their medical technology unparalleled. For them to seek outside assistance was unprecedented and deeply concerning. Upon arrival at the Zilithian Palace, Elliot was struck by its ethereal beauty. The walls shimmered like living crystal, glowing faintly in the soft light of the planet's twin suns. He was led to the Queen's private chambers by a retinue of guards who moved with precision and silence. Inside, Queen Alira lay motionless on a raised platform, her skin, normally radiant and iridescent, dulled and pale. Her daughters, Princess Mira and Princess Tala, stood on either side of her, their expressions a mix of worry and exhaustion. "You must be Dr. Harrow," Mira said, her voice steady but tinged with desperation. "Our mother's life depends on you." Tala nodded, her eyes meeting Elliot's. "We've tried everything. Our best healers are at a loss. Please, save her." Elliot nodded solemnly, stepping closer to the Queen. "I'll do everything I can." Elliot began his examination, scanning Queen Alira with his portable medical AI. Her vital signs were weak, and her body showed signs of systemic failure. Yet the cause wasn't immediately apparent. The Zilithian healers provided detailed reports of their efforts, but their treatments had only worsened her condition. As Elliot studied the data, Mira and Tala watched intently. "What do you see?" Mira asked, her tone careful but insistent. Elliot frowned, his mind piecing together the clues. "Her symptoms don't align with any known disease. But I've seen similar cases before, conditions that are rare and specific to a species' unique biology." He turned to his AI assistant. "Run a comparison between the Queen's genetic profile and the microbial samples from her bloodstream." The AI chirped in acknowledgement, and within moments, a holographic display revealed the culprit. A rare microorganism, native to Zilithian's southern swamps, where the royal palace was located. The organism had mutated, likely due to environmental changes, making it resistant to traditional treatments. "This is it," Elliot said, pointing to the display. "A mutated pathogen. It's attacking her at a cellular level, disrupting her body's natural regenerative processes." The princesses exchanged a glance. "Can you cure her?" Tala asked, her voice trembling. "I can," Elliot replied, though his tone was cautious. "But it won't be easy. I'll need access to your planet's medical research databases and a secure lab to synthesize a treatment." "You'll have whatever you need," Mira said firmly. "Just save her." As the princesses coordinated with the palace staff to grant Elliot full access, he began formulating a plan. The treatment would require a combination of human and Zilithian medical techniques, a synthesis of knowledge from two worlds. It was a daunting task, but Elliot's determination outweighed his doubts. Over the next hours, Elliot worked tirelessly, analyzing the pathogen's structure and testing potential antidotes. Mira and Tala remained close, offering assistance whenever possible. Despite their royal bearing, their concern for their mother was deeply personal and genuine. "You're doing something no one else could," Tala said quietly as she handed him a sample vial. "You're giving us hope." Elliot glanced at her, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. Hope is a good place to start. As he continued his work, he couldn't shake the feeling that this case was about more than just medicine. It was about trust. Between species, between worlds, and between himself and the two extraordinary princesses who had placed their faith in him. The lab provided to Dr. Elliot Harrow was a marvel of Zilithian engineering. Holographic displays floated in midair, showing detailed projections of Queen Alira's biological systems and the mutating pathogen ravaging her body. Advanced tools hummed softly, waiting for his command. Yet, despite the high-tech environment, Elliot felt the weight of urgency pressing on him. "This pathogen," Elliot muttered, examining a swirling holographic projection, "it's evolving faster than I expected. Every treatment I've tested neutralizes it temporarily, but it adapts within hours." Princess Mira and Princess Tala stood nearby, their faces drawn with worry. Mira crossed her arms, her tone steady despite the strain. "Then you'll need to outpace it. Is that not what you humans are known for? Improvising in impossible situations?" Elliot smirked faintly, her words sparking his determination. "We are, but it's not magic. This requires precision." He tapped on the holographic console, pulling up a simulation. "Your mother's immune system has been compromised by this pathogen's mutative properties. I need to design a counteragent that doesn't just kill the infection. It needs to reinforce her natural defenses while stopping it from adapting further." "That sounds impossible," Tala said softly, her normally calm voice edged with despair. "Can you do it?" Elliot glanced at her, his tone resolute. "I don't do impossible. I just need time." But time was not on their side. Hours turned into a grueling day as Elliot worked tirelessly, formulating and testing counteragents. He blended human antibiotics with Zilithian bioserums, creating a hybrid treatment unlike anything he'd attempted before. Every few hours, Mira and Tala brought him updates on their mother's condition, each report more dire than the last. At one point, Mira entered the lab alone, her expression unreadable. She placed a tray of food next to Elliot, who hadn't paused to eat since he'd started. "You're exhausting yourself," she said, her voice firm but tinged with concern. "Even the greatest minds need sustenance." Elliot glanced at her but didn't stop working. "I'll eat when I know she's stable." Mira stepped closer, her presence commanding but oddly comforting. "Do you always carry the weight of the galaxy on your shoulders, Dr. Harrow?" Elliot paused, finally meeting her gaze. "Only when it's necessary." A faint smile touched Mira's lips. "Then let me make it clear. Whatever the outcome, you've already done more than we could have hoped. My sister and I owe you a debt." "I'm not doing this for debts," Elliot said, turning back to his work. "I'm doing this because I can." The next morning, Tala entered the lab, her expression panicked. "Dr. Harrow, my mother's condition is worsening. The healers say she may not survive another day." Elliot's stomach sank. The counteragent he was developing was still untested, and administering it without further refinement could be dangerous. But he knew they had no other option. He turned to the princesses, his voice steady. "I have something that might work, but it hasn't been tested yet. If we administer it, there's a chance it could fail, or worse, accelerate the pathogen's mutation." "And if we do nothing?" Mira asked, though the answer was already clear. "She won't survive," Elliot admitted. The room fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over them. Mira and Tala exchanged a glance, their bond as sisters evident in the way they seemed to communicate without words. "Do it," Mira said finally. "We trust you." Elliot nodded, gathering the counteragent and his equipment. They returned to the Queen's chambers, where Alira lay pale and motionless. Her breaths were shallow, her once radiant skin now dull and cracked. As Elliot prepared the injection, he glanced at the princesses. "Once I administer this, her body will need to fight. It'll be painful, and there's no guarantee it'll work immediately." Mira stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "She's stronger than she looks. Do it." Elliot injected the counteragent into the Queen's arm, his hands steady despite the pressure. The Queen's body reacted immediately. Her muscles tensed and her breathing quickened. Monitors blared warnings as her vital signs fluctuated wildly. "Her body's fighting back," Elliot said, his eyes fixed on the monitors. "We just need to give it time." Hours passed in excruciating tension. Elliot monitored her condition closely, adjusting her medication to stabilize her vital signs. Mira and Tala stayed by their mother's side, their presence a constant reminder of what was at stake. At one point, Tala placed a hand on Elliot's arm. "You've done all you can, the rest is up to her." Elliot nodded, exhaustion finally catching up with him. "She's a fighter," he said softly. "Let's hope it's enough." As the sun rose over the Zilithian palace, Queen Alira's condition began to improve. Her breathing steadied, her color returned, and the monitors showed signs of recovery. The counteragent had worked. When Alira opened her eyes, weak but alive, the room erupted in relief. Mira and Tala embraced their mother, tears streaming down their faces. Elliot stepped back, allowing them their moment. Mira turned to him, her gratitude shining in her eyes. "You saved her. You saved all of us." Tala stepped forward, her voice filled with emotion. "Dr. Harrow, you've given us back our mother. There are no words to express our gratitude." Elliot smiled faintly, the weight on his shoulders finally lifting. "Just take care of her. That's thanks enough for me." But as he left the Queen's chambers, he couldn't shake the feeling that his journey with the royal family was far from over. The day after Queen Alira's miraculous recovery, Dr. Elliot Harrow sat on the palace terrace, staring out at the crystalline landscape of Zilithian's capital. The vibrant colors of the sky shimmered as if alive, a stark contrast to the sterile medbays he was accustomed to. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of relief, though exhaustion lingered. He was pulled from his thoughts by the sound of footsteps. Turning, he saw Queen Alira approaching, her daughters Mira and Tala walking closely behind her. The Queen's radiant appearance had returned. Her once pale skin now gleamed with iridescent vitality. She moved with a grace that seemed effortless, though her eyes betrayed the weight of what she had endured. "Dr. Harrow," Queen Alira began, her voice as smooth and commanding as the wind brushing through the palace spires. "I have come to thank you personally. You saved my life when all hope seemed lost." Elliot stood, bowing slightly out of respect. "Your Majesty, I only did what any doctor would have. I'm just glad the treatment worked." The Queen shook her head, her expression softening. "You do yourself a disservice, Doctor. Many would have faltered in the face of such an impossible task. Your dedication and courage ensured my survival." Tala stepped forward, her usually composed demeanor replaced by a rare vulnerability. "We've never seen anyone fight for our mother the way you did. You didn't just treat her, you gave her a chance to live." Elliot smiled faintly. "She's strong. I just gave her body the tools to fight back." Mira, always the more pragmatic of the two sisters, studied him with an intensity that made Elliot slightly uncomfortable. "You put yourself at great risk, Doctor. The counteragent could have failed. Why?" Elliot hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Because I believe every life matters. Your mother has the power to shape the future of your people, and if I could help her do that, it was worth the risk." The Queen's expression grew thoughtful. "You see value where others might not. That is a rare gift." She gestured for Elliot to sit, and the group joined him at the table. The conversation shifted to lighter topics: Zilithian culture, Earth's advancements, and the unique challenges of interspecies medicine. Elliot found himself drawn into the dynamic between the Queen and her daughters. Their bond was evident in every shared glance and unspoken understanding, and he felt a pang of something he couldn't quite name. A longing to belong to something greater than himself. Later that evening, Elliot was summoned to the Grand Hall for a formal ceremony. He had expected some form of recognition for his efforts, perhaps a medal or a title of honor, but nothing could have prepared him for what was to come. The hall was filled with Zilithian nobles, their shimmering garments reflecting the light of the crystal chandeliers above. At the center stood Queen Alira, her daughters flanking her, their presence commanding the room. Elliot entered hesitantly, feeling out of place among the grandeur. The Queen raised a hand, and the murmurs of the crowd silenced instantly. "Dr. Elliot Harrow," she began, her voice carrying through the hall with regal authority. "You have given me a gift beyond measure, my life. You have restored hope to my people and ensured the stability of our future. Such an act demands more than gratitude. It demands honor." Elliot shifted uncomfortably. "Your Majesty, truly, I didn't." She raised a hand, cutting him off gently but firmly. "It is not just my life you have saved, but the bond between our worlds. To honor your service, I offer you something far greater than wealth or titles. I offer you a place within our family." The room gasped collectively. Elliot blinked, stunned. "Your Majesty, I'm not sure I understand." The Queen smiled, her expression warm. "It is our tradition to reward acts of unparalleled service with a union that strengthens bonds between our people. I offer you the hands of my daughters, Princess Mira and Princess Tala, to form an alliance that will unite our worlds." Elliot froze, his mind racing. The gravity of her words hit him like a comet. The offer wasn't just symbolic, it was a life-altering proposition. He glanced at Mira and Tala, both of whom looked equally surprised but not displeased. Their gazes held no malice, only curiosity and perhaps a hint of something more. Mira stepped forward, her tone pragmatic but sincere. "This is as much an honor for us as it is for you. You've proven yourself to be a man of integrity and courage. Such qualities are rare." Tala followed, her voice softer but equally earnest. "Our mother's life is everything to us. You gave it back to her, and by doing so, you've earned our trust and our hearts." The hall waited in expectant silence, all eyes on Elliot. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, but beneath the anxiety, there was also a spark of something new. Possibility. He took a deep breath, his voice steady. "Your Majesty, Princess Mira, Princess Tala, I am honored by your offer. This is not a decision I take lightly, but I believe in the bonds we've forged. If this union can bring our worlds closer together, I will accept." The hall erupted in applause, the air electric with excitement. Mira and Tala approached him, their expressions a mix of relief and intrigue. As the queen looked on with pride, Elliot realized his life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. For the first time, he felt like he wasn't just a doctor fighting to save lives. He was part of something far greater, a bridge between two worlds and the foundation of a future filled with hope, love, and unity. The weeks following Elliot's acceptance of Queen Alira's offer were a whirlwind of activity. He quickly discovered that the union wasn't just a personal matter, it was a political and cultural event of galactic significance. The impending alliance between Earth and Zilithian royalty stirred excitement, curiosity, and even skepticism across the galaxy. Elliot found himself at the center of it all, navigating a complex world of diplomatic intricacies and ancient traditions. While he had faced life-and-death situations as a doctor, this new challenge was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Princess Mira took charge of Elliot's acclimation to Zilithian customs, her pragmatic nature making her an effective guide. "If you're to be part of our family, you must understand our traditions," she said, leading him through the palace's vast halls. She showed him the royal archives, where holographic texts chronicled centuries of Zilithian history. Elliot spent hours learning about the queen's lineage, their people's struggles, and the values that defined their culture. Mira's explanations were sharp and precise, but there was a warmth in her tone that hinted at genuine admiration for her heritage. "Your people value practicality and elegance," Elliot remarked, studying the ornate designs etched into a ceremonial artifact. Mira nodded, her violet eyes glinting. "We value harmony, between form and function, between strength and compassion. It's what makes us resilient." Elliot couldn't help but be impressed. Mira's intellect was as sharp as her words, and he found himself drawn to her commanding presence. While Mira focused on teaching Elliot about their world's broader dynamics, Princess Tala offered him a different perspective, one rooted in empathy and connection. She brought him to the palace gardens, a sprawling expanse of bioluminescent flora that pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. "These plants are alive in ways most species don't understand," Tala said, running her fingers gently over a glowing vine. "They respond to emotions, to energy." Elliot marveled at the garden's beauty. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this." Tala smiled, her expression serene. "It's a reminder that even in the chaos of politics and duty, there is always room for growth and healing." They spent hours in the garden, talking not about royal expectations or intergalactic diplomacy, but about life, dreams, and the choices that defined them. Tala's presence was calming, her perspective thoughtful and kind. Elliot found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't anticipated. As the days passed, Elliot grew closer to both princesses, each connection unique. With Mira, he felt challenged and inspired, their conversations often turning into debates that left him invigorated. With Tala, he found solace and understanding, her quiet strength grounding him amidst the whirlwind of change. Their dynamic was unconventional, but the three of them discovered a natural rhythm. They worked together to prepare for the union, not just as a political alliance, but as a partnership rooted in mutual respect and shared goals. "You're not like the men of our court," Mira said one evening as they reviewed plans for the upcoming ceremony. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Elliot asked, raising an eyebrow. Mira's lips curved into a rare smile. It's refreshing. Tala, sitting nearby, chimed in. You bring something different to our world, Elliot, something we didn't know we needed. Their words stayed with him, fueling his determination to prove himself worthy, not just to them, but to their people. The announcement of Elliot's union with the princesses had not been met with universal approval. Dissent rippled through the Zilithian court, with some nobles questioning the wisdom of bringing a human into their royal family. Whispers of discontent grew louder as the day of the union approached. One evening, as Elliot was inspecting the preparations for the grand ceremony, a sudden explosion rocked the palace. The shockwave sent him sprawling, his ears ringing as alarms blared. Mira and Tala rushed to his side, their faces pale with shock. Elliot, are you hurt? Tala asked, helping him to his feet. I'm fine, he said, though his heart raced. What the hell was that? Guards swarmed the area, and Queen Alira appeared moments later, her expression grim. An act of sabotage, she said. Someone within the court seeks to undermine this union. Elliot felt a surge of anger. Then we find out who and stop them. Mira's gaze hardened. This is an attack, not just on you, but on our family's integrity. We cannot let it stand. Over the following days, Elliot worked alongside the princesses to uncover the saboteur. His medical expertise proved invaluable in analyzing traces left at the explosion site, identifying a rare compound used in the explosive device. The evidence led them to a high-ranking noble with ties to a faction opposed to the Queen's progressive policies. When confronted, the noble sneered. You think a human can understand our ways? This union is a mockery of our traditions. Mira stepped forward, her voice like steel. Traditions evolve, as do the people who uphold them. You will answer for your betrayal. The saboteur was taken into custody, but the incident left Elliot shaken. Not everyone is ready for this alliance, he said to the Queen later that evening. Queen Alira placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Change is never easy, Dr. Harrow, but you have shown my daughters and my people that you are willing to fight for what is right. That is how trust is earned. The incident only strengthened Elliot's resolve. As the day of the union approached, he worked tirelessly to ensure every detail was perfect, refusing to let fear or doubt cloud the occasion. On the eve of the ceremony, Mira and Tala found him in the palace gardens, where the bioluminescent plants cast a soft glow. They stood with him in silence for a moment before Mira spoke. You've proven yourself in ways we never expected, she said. This union isn't just about politics anymore. It's about trust and what we've built together. Tala nodded, her voice gentle. You've become part of our family, Elliot. Whatever challenges lie ahead, we face them together. Elliot looked at them, his chest tight with emotion. I never imagined I'd find something like this, but I promise you I won't let you down. As the stars shone brightly overhead, the three of them stood united, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store. Their bond had been forged in trials and trust, and it would only grow stronger in the days to come. The day of the union ceremony dawned with the twin suns of Zilithia casting a radiant glow over the crystalline palace. The air buzzed with anticipation as dignitaries and citizens from across the galaxy gathered to witness the historic event. For Elliot, the day felt surreal, a moment that bridged the impossible journey that had brought him from Earth to this alien world. Elliot stood in his quarters, adjusting the ceremonial robes provided by the Queen's attendants. The outfit was a blend of human and Zilithian designs, symbolizing the unity between their worlds. The intricate patterns of the fabric shimmered, reflecting the light like liquid metal. As he struggled with the unfamiliar garment, the door slid open, and Mira entered, dressed in a stunning gown of deep violet that seemed to shift hues as she moved. You're hopeless with formal wear, she said, a faint smirk gracing her lips. Elliot grinned despite his nerves. You'd think after saving the Queen's life I'd get a pass on this. Mira stepped closer, her hands deftly adjusting the collar of his robe. This ceremony isn't just for us, it's for our people. They need to see that we're stronger together. Elliot nodded, his grin softening into something more earnest. I just don't want to let anyone down. You won't, Mira said, her voice steady. You've already proven yourself in ways that matter. Before he could respond, Tala appeared in the doorway, her gown a soft, luminescent green that complemented her serene demeanor. "You look nervous," she observed, tilting her head. "Because I am," Elliot admitted. "This is big." Tala smiled gently. "It's big for all of us, Elliot, but you've already shown that you belong here." Together, the three made their way to the grand hall, where the ceremony was set to take place. The massive chamber was adorned with bioluminescent flora, their soft glow creating an ethereal ambiance. The assembled crowd, a mix of Zilithians and human representatives, fell silent as Queen Alira took her place at the center of the room. The ceremony began with a series of traditional Zilithian rituals, each one symbolizing the merging of two lives, and in this case, two worlds. Elliot participated as best he could, guided by Mira, who stood by his side with unwavering confidence. Queen Alira addressed the gathering, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. "Today we celebrate more than a union. We celebrate a bond that transcends borders, species, and expectations. Dr. Elliot Harrow has shown us the strength of the human spirit, and through his actions, he has earned his place among us." The Queen turned to Elliot, her expression warm. "You have proven that love, trust, and unity are universal. Do you accept this bond, not only with my daughters, but with our people?" Elliot met her gaze, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "I do." The room erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the grand hall. Mira and Tala each took his hands, their expressions a mix of pride and relief. The celebrations lasted well into the night, with music, laughter, and shared stories filling the palace. Elliot found himself mingling with dignitaries and citizens alike, each eager to meet the man who had saved their queen and united their worlds. Despite his initial discomfort with the attention, he realized that these moments were as important as the ceremony itself. The joy of the evening was interrupted when a commotion erupted near the palace gates. Guards rushed to intercept a group of dissenters who had infiltrated the celebration, their intentions clear. "You think a human can lead us?" one of them shouted, their voice dripping with contempt. "This union is a betrayal of our traditions." Elliot stepped forward before anyone else could respond, his voice calm but firm. "I didn't come here to lead. I came to stand beside your people, to learn and grow together. This isn't about replacing your traditions, it's about strengthening them." The room fell silent as the dissenters hesitated, their anger faltering in the face of his sincerity. Queen Alira stepped forward, her tone commanding. "Our traditions are not weakened by unity. They are strengthened by understanding and trust. This man has earned his place here. Do not dishonor our legacy with baseless fear." The dissenters, chastened, were escorted out. The crowd erupted into cheers, the moment solidifying Elliot's place in their hearts. As the celebration continued, Mira and Tala found Elliot on the palace terrace, where he had retreated to catch his breath. The stars above sparkled like diamonds against the inky sky. "You handled that well," Mira said, her tone approving. "Better than I expected," Elliot admitted with a wry smile. Tala stepped closer, her gaze soft. "You've shown our people what true strength looks like. Not in weapons or power, but in compassion." Elliot looked at them, his chest tightening with gratitude. "I never imagined I'd be here, standing with you both, but now that I am, I can't imagine being anywhere else." Mira smirked. "Good, because you're stuck with us." Tala laughed, the sound light and musical, "and we with you." Together, they stood beneath the stars, their bond unshakable. The union wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter for Elliot and the princesses. It was the dawn of a new era for their worlds. Through trust, courage, and love, they had forged something greater than themselves, a legacy that would inspire generations to come.